Women leading the manufacturing and services sector growth story across India. Now, from manufacturing to services, hospitality to automobile, there's been a rise in the percentage of women workforce in almost every industry across ranks and divisions. But reports and surveys still suggest that the India Inc. has a long way to attain true gender equality, and that it is going to take constant work to ensure gender diversity remains a strategic imperative and not just a record in the books. And so through this conversation, we will highlight the evolving role of women in the erstwhile male-dominated industries and the many hindrances, challenges and opportunities that are linked with these sectors for the women workforce. Please join me in welcoming on stage Sumita Ghose, founder and managing director, Rangsutra Crafts; Nina Reddy, Joint Managing Director, Hotel Savera; Rajiv Chhaba, CEO Emeritus, MG Motor India; Hemant Malik, Divisional Chief Executive for Foods Business ITC; and Shereen Bhan to take the conversation forward.
Please do take a seat. Thank you. Thank you so much to the four of you for joining us here this evening. Ladies and gentlemen, we're pretty much we've been on for about 2 hours now. How are you feeling this evening? Having fun? You can make some noise if you are. Well, we're going to keep the conversations going, and as we said that today we are specifically emphasizing the role of women in manufacturing, and which is why we have and services, and which is why we have this panel here together. So, I'm going to start by asking you, first of all, give us a sense of where things currently stand as far as Rangsutra is concerned, what you've been able to establish and clock in terms of your own journey. But more importantly, we heard from Priya and we heard from many others here, the journey from informal to formal and really bringing women into labor-intensive sectors like textile, apparel, craft, etc. What's been the lesson and the learning, big learning for you in having to deal with that over these years?
Thank you, Shereen. I think the biggest lesson, the biggest learning has been that given a chance, a woman can achieve anything, given the opportunity. So prior to setting up Rangsutra, I actually worked in the not-for-profit social development sector, and I had worked with many women, especially in rural Rajasthan. And one of the key things that they always raised was, we need work. Because our industries haven't gone to villages. Farming is still dependent on the rain, agriculture dependent on the rain, so it's risky. So that's how the idea of Rangsutra actually came to me, that let's build on skills that women already have, people already have. And I know that there's a market for such products. It's just that we have to be, we decided we should be that bridge which connects rural to urban, tradition to the modern, and, bring about a new way of doing business.
Speaking about a new way of doing business, and I want to connect this to what we are seeing, which is a global trend at this point in time, the focus on ESG. And that seems to be driving capital also towards businesses like yours who are trying to do similar things. But that's also pushing manufacturers globally to look at practices, to look at what is happening in terms of the suppliers that they deal with, the vendors that they deal with. How much of that do you believe is likely to bring in much more diversity in the workplace on account of the kind of mandatory requirements that these ESG sort of norms are bringing in?
I think there's great opportunity. For ourselves, we have worked with some global supply chains, and that's how we have also learned really how to build a safer, more inclusive, better spaces for women. Like you said, it has been an informal, area, and most women who are artisans, and men for that matter, work out of their homes, especially in rural India. So creating these spaces where your hobby, in a sense, becomes your profession, allowing for those kind of opportunities where women learn. So I think that is seen to be by the customer today, especially the global customer. They are interested in the story behind the product, who made my garment that I'm wearing, what is her life like. So I think there is great opportunity actually, especially in the global arena for where people are looking to source from organizations which are really ethical, have concern.
Could it be advantage India?
I definitely think so. Because we've benefited from it.
Yeah, but still in terms of global share, and we have been losing out, especially in the textile and the apparel market. Do you believe that this could, in a sense, perhaps be a differentiator for us?
It definitely can be, because the traditional skills are there, and as we learnt, in Tamil Nadu, in the garment industry, there are women who in the textile industry, there are women who work. So also in other parts of the country. But I think what needs to be done is that there needs to be this enabling environment that the minister spoke about earlier, where you have spaces where women can come and work. It's a safe, secure space, and they can learn from each other. And I think it can be advanced. We need to seize it.
We need to seize the opportunity, and we need to ensure that we do move up the value chain and become a preferred destination as far as the global supply chain is concerned. Hemant, let me talk to you, because the Rangsutra experience is very different from the ITC experience, which is a large conglomerate at this point in time. You're, of course, looking after a particular vertical within ITC. How important has it been for you to drive this idea of parity within the organization?
Thank you, Shereen. And you talked about energy. This has indeed been a very, very inspiring session. For me particularly, I think driving the gender parity, two big areas. One was sales and second was manufacturing. And I think I'd like to talk a bit about manufacturing. In 2017, we just had about 5% people in ITC foods, which were women. Today, in 6 years, it has come to 25%. And this journey, and we have employed in between our factories about 5,000 people in the last 6 years, and very happy to report that about 56% of them have been women. But it was not easy.
I would imagine.
Because it starts firstly with the mindset itself.
Yeah.
Right?
Internally or externally?
Internally. Right, because the factory manager is used to working with men. He knows how to work. He's not very sure whether the women will be productive, what could be the issues. But I think that was the biggest challenge, one of the biggest challenge. Then comes the challenge of recruitment. Right, in Trichy, our largest factory is in Trichy, and we had to recruit about 2,000 people. 500 of them on the line, and we said that we want to be 100% women. And then you find that somebody from HR comes and says that, listen, you're not finding enough, diploma holders. But the diploma holder was our own norm. So I said, why don't we change the norm? Let's get people who are 12th pass, and we can train them. I must say that the experience for us has been that after that, every factory that we have been opening, the factory unit heads are saying we want only female managers, because I think they are way more productive, they're way smarter, they learn much faster. So I think, but I think a few more challenges that we faced was the design of the factory itself, the ergonomics, right, the height.
That's what I was going to say, yeah.
Right, and therefore we had to, and therefore what we did was we actually worked on, we gave them we said you work on Kaizens. Right, small improvement. What is it that can make a difference so that your working can become better? Then we started facing more interesting challenges. These were girls who had just come up from school and they were of marriageable age, and now they get married, and we find the attrition has gone through the roof. Yeah. So how do you manage the attrition? And then we actually do marriage counseling. Right? We call it a social engineering experiment. We call the husbands, we call them to the factory. We told them, we kind of agreed on what should be their family goals. How do you look at agreement and disagreements? I think it's been fascinating to see how can you actually transform and drive the gender balance in the organization.
So not quite a marriage bureau yet, but you're probably getting to that as well, right?
It's like each step is a new learning.
No, but absolutely. And these are the practical challenges that get glossed over, but these are the real challenges that managers on the factory floor have to deal with, and attrition is a big challenge. The first survey that we did with FICCI highlights that attrition continues to be a big challenge, especially in that period between marriage and maternity. Rajiv, for the auto sector as well, now we just saw one of your employees here being felicitated as well, and you've got, what, about 38% of your workforce is women. My question is, as Hemant was pointing out, the rationale, to explain the rationale internally, why do you need the women? What was that experience like for you to actually communicate that message internally on why it's important to bring the women on?
Right. So thanks. So initially it was tough because you start with a 10,000 feet goal and objective, and then slowly, you let them experience themselves the benefits of it. But initially, when we set up the whole thing, luckily I was fortunate to work in many countries, and when I came back to India, it was clear that no country can make a progress if the women are not part of formal economy of the country. That was the top end goal. And when you want to give back to society, that's one area where I think we need to look at, and we are fortunate to occupy these positions where you can make some impact. So we started, and luckily we were starting from scratch. There was a brownfield. We took over a GM plant where there was 0 female employee in the plant, and we said, let's start with 30%. And 30% we just took the number at that point of time. I'm happy that initially we said the lot of studies from ILO, World Bank, and some very few studies were in India by that point of time. So we give a lot of international studies that why it's important to have female employee participation in the workforce. And so there are studies, by the way, which all of us, I'm sure, know that even the profitability of the company increases. So we said productivity, quality, balance, all that stuff we knew, but there was no hard data. So we used some Harvard data and some ILO data to prove a point. But slowly, when we started hiring and people started seeing the impact, now we don't have to do that. We have to actually, they are themselves seeing the results. We have increased our bar. Now we are saying 50%. We say nature is 50-50. So we should be 50% females and 50% males. So that's the new target now.
Well, that's an audacious target, and we wish you the very best of luck. Have you also had to set up marriage counseling, marriage bureaus within the organization?
Not of that scale, but frankly, it's very interesting. It's again, I still keep challenging the male mindset. When you initially, all of us probably face this issue when you're hiring a young girl. The guys will say, "Iski to marriage ho jayegi, chali jayegi. Why should we hire?" Fir jab, then pregnant ho jayegi, then kya hoga? So you start with those kind of issues, and so you need to have a enabling environment, a lot of sessions, a lot of coaching sessions, a lot of interventions, for all levels of employees to understand this whole thing. Why do you need a balanced workforce? So yeah, we all go through these challenges, and you keep learning a lot, in the process.
Yes, we do keep learning, and I think part of that sensitization process and the counseling is to tell the men that they need to share the load at home as well. And I think that is crucial also. But Nina, let me ask you, to the point that was being made there by Sumita, that you need to connect the traditional to the new, and you've taken over a legacy business with a 50-year heritage and legacy. How difficult was it for you to bring in change?
First of all, I'm feeling so good being here. I think the energy is fantastic, and it's such a well-curated event. I'm really feeling good, and I'm going to go back much more inspired than when I came.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much. That means a lot to us.
Yeah. So coming back to the question, actually I got married into the family. I'm not born into the family. So that itself was a disadvantage. Because, as a daughter-in-law...
And that's not usual, right? That's very unusual.
Unusual, I guess. But for me, it was the most natural thing to do because I had the confidence of my father-in-law. And I think he would come and share everything that he did at work. He would share it with us at home. And I would just keep soaking in everything. And then somewhere after a while, after my kids were born, I was just born into a privileged family, and I was just bringing up my kids at that point of time. I just felt the kids didn't need me anymore when they were still, in school, yes, but I was personally feeling a void. So I approached my father with lots of confidence and no expertise, and I said I would like to come and help him in his business. And I don't know, it was my good moment, he said yes. And my husband always said, you entered like the East India Company, you came in from the back door and you took over. So that's how I came into the family business, and I just felt this sector required a little sensitivity, and I was just required there. That was the only way I wanted to come in and take charge.
You know, you're saying that this sector required sensitivity, and as a woman leader that's driving decision-making today, what do you think is different in the way that you make decisions, in the kinds of decisions that you make, in the things that you champion within the organization?
I think one of the speakers before this, I think the Marshal said that, and it struck a chord in me. I think we look at things very differently than men do. We look at the smaller details. And the small decisions that we take, I think, can make a bigger impact. I think that's what has happened with my experience. The small nuances of everything. It need not be the big bank loans or expansion. It's not that. It's just about how you make everyone feel when they come in. That's all it is.
I agree with you. I think getting people to feel valued, appreciated, seen and heard, I think that's a crucial aspect of leadership. And I think that women, I don't want to generalize, but tend to do that better. But, you know, on the issue of attrition, and this is, I mean, we're laughing about it and we're joking about it today, but this is no laughing matter. This is serious business. What has worked for you to try and bring down attrition? How do you ensure that you get the women to come back, you know, if they do go on maternity leave? What's worked?
Yeah, so Shereen, you know, all the artisans we work with, the women, are all based in their villages. And what's happened with the young women is that once they have, and many of them are not even 12th pass. I mean, most of the artisans have never been to school. The ones who have been to school, we've trained them to become what we call craft managers, supervisors. Some of them are on our board as well. But what has worked is giving them this sense of ownership. So I'll just share that, like when we started Rangsutra, I don't come from a business family. And we decided that it has to be a for-profit company because otherwise you're dependent on grants forever. So we decided to start the company and then went to a bank for loan and no one would give us money. That's when I went back to the artisans I had worked with, and 1,000 of them, 800 being women, put in 1,000 rupees each, and with that 10 lakhs, we started our company. I put in another 10 lakhs from friends and family, and that's how we started. But that sense of ownership means that, you know, the artisans have, and even my team, they're all shareholders, you know, have a stake in the company, they own the company. So there are women, young women, who are putting off marriage. That earlier when they were getting married at 18, now it's, you know, 23, 24. And in our case, they go from one village to another and they set up a unit there. That, okay, we are not in our mother's village anymore, but there are women here. And so that's how we've been taking care of this. And also, you know, we've allowed for a lot of flexibility at work, etc.
Yeah, I would imagine. Well, you know, Sumita can create a sense of ownership, quite literally, for people that are working with her. But, you know, you can't do that. You can't sort of give ownership to the women with the effort to try and hold them back. You have to create a culture of custodianship, of ownership. What are the policies that have worked to try and keep attrition low? How do you ensure that women come back to work?
So, well, in ITC, we all feel we are owners of the company, so I would not agree to that. Yeah. In terms of, I think few things when we were looking and we look at attrition, and, you know, typical MBA, you try to analyze, you look at, understand what would be the reasons for attrition. A few things that have came across. One was from the policy perspective itself, right? And I think, you know, we are a more than 100-year organization, but there were a lot of policy changes that we have done. For instance, you know, leave after having a child for almost, you know, for 2 years you can be on leave and you can go up to 2 child. So in 10 years you can be on leave for 4 years. Caregiver, you know, travel. If you know, you have a small child, you want to travel with a caregiver, the company will pay for everything along with that. Paternity leaves. So one is in terms of the whole policy part of it. The second is that, and I think I'm quite happy about what my team is doing, is in terms of actually, and this I'm talking about in the management, working, there is this equality and there is this equity, right? In terms of, you look at all your policies are equal, but, when you look at equitable, and how do you bring that equity into it? Is our, possibly a lot of management is male-oriented, right? And therefore, how do we look at what is relevant from a female perspective? How do you look at aggression? How does a man look at aggression and how he behaves, and how does a woman look at aggression, right? We found that a lot of time women don't want to really talk too much about it, while a man will, boast like I'm doing, right? So in terms of, how do you work with them? People felt that we don't have enough role models, or we don't have enough working groups, so we created this whole, ERGs in place and try to. So I think it's a journey. Yeah. Right, and there are new learnings that are coming, and we have to continue to work on that.
No, and I agree with you. There are no easy answers and there are no cookie-cutter solutions. Each organization has to contextualize the solutions, and it is work in progress. And I think the ability to be agile and dynamic and flexible really is helpful. But, again, I want to address that attrition issue with you. But I also want to ask both of you, because you also deal with the supply base, which in many parts of the country continues to be MSME. And, you talked about being able to give 2 years of maternity leave, other benefits including creches and so on and so forth. Now, this is mandated, at least 6 months is mandated as per law. But a lot of the SMEs find it very, very hard to be able to make those to fulfill those commitments, and hence it becomes sort of counterproductive because they choose not to bring the women on. Have you had this conversation with your suppliers as well? How do you help them?
So actually it starts with our own company initially, and then you go into the supply chain and the partners, dealers, suppliers, everyone. So the important point here is I think you need to start talking and communicating right from the day one, and then you need to talk a lot about it. I'll just add on to some Hemant's example, like it's not only about the policies, but like what's your intention, how's the spirit. So small nuances we need to see on this issue. As an example, there's a heavy rain in Delhi, and the Delhi government announced that schools are going to be closed. The schools are going to be closed, but the school said that the students have to study from home. Now, what happens to young mothers then? Like mothers cannot come to office because those young kids need some, or in some cases even the guys. So you need to be very flexible that if schools are closed but studies are going on from home, then you need to provide this flexibility to mothers and fathers that you can also operate from home and help your kids. When we talk about creche, see, this is not tokenism in my opinion. The government is trying to make certain minimum norms, laws that you can facilitate. But the thing is, if you need to be good in your job, you need to do much more than government mandates. So as an example, nuances of creches. Now in creches, like maids are coming with a child. Now, sometimes the policy is that the maid should not come because so many maids you can't handle in the small creche. But then child is not comfortable with any maid or office maid, if you can call it, right? So then, I mean, you need to have those kind of things that. So likewise, maternity and all. Maternity leave doesn't mean that the person has to be out of touch with the office. And they keep talking to managers. Managers need to keep talking. So, there are a lot of nuances and details which is much more than the policy, the intent. So coming to supply chain partners, dealers. So the same way we talk to dealers, same way we talk to suppliers. Still, we haven't done a damn good job of talking to suppliers, but with dealers, there we have more, contact. I'm happy to say, especially in our company, the dealers also believe in the same philosophy. They're hiring a lot of female employees who are giving the training. And also we have joined hands with a lot of colleges now. So what happens is in colleges we are talking about it. See, one important thing I feel very strongly about is that this whole topic needs to be taught at school, at colleges, MBA colleges. And for especially males, it's very important to understand how does it look like to work with a female. Because most of them probably have not done it. And when you go into more details, you will realize that some of the sections or subsections where the guys are not comfortable, they may not have sisters, they may not have daughters, so they don't know. They don't know what they don't know working with female employees. I think it's a much deeper topic and you need to really go into details.
Yeah, I agree with you. It is a complex issue, and it with many layers. Sumita, I'll start by asking you, over the next few years, what is it that you would like to see change? What is the next milestone that you've set for yourself at Rangsutra? And if there was one specific ask of those who are in positions of power today in the government, to ensure that we do get better on this front, what would it be?
Yeah, so, we've done reasonably well in the B2B and especially in the global space. Next step for us really is to build our brand within the country. And by that I mean create more awareness among customers here within country. And thankfully, in India, at least Indian women still wear Indian clothes. So I think that's half the battle won. So to create that awareness about not just our craft heritage, but also, the whole, the sustainability part of it,
yeah.
and how it's needed today to buy, whatever you wear, whatever you buy has a story behind it. So that's on our side where we want to go. And as far as the government, as I said earlier, most of the artisans live in villages. And they're not all going to come to cities in search of work.
Yeah.
So to create spaces there which are, well lit, well equipped, with creches, with clean drinking water, toilets, etc., where people can come and work. Like we've done that by our own selves in small ways, but I think using solar energy,
yeah.
that kind of thing, I think that would really go a long way to get more women active in this sector.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, and I think that is not just for women, but we need to stop the migration from the villages into the cities because we don't have the infrastructure to cope with that. And so we need to ensure that our villages actually are upgraded as well. Nina, what's the target that you've set for yourself? And, if there was one ask that you had, what would that be?
Actually, today after I came in, when I heard it was 80% women, I'm like, really, I think that's an awesome thing to aim for, I think I'm going to get a lady HR first. Maybe
that'll be a good start.
That'll be a good start. But all the same, I think it's about, it's again something that I feel, the support should come from the families where the women are coming from, And I've seen in the last 30 years that I've been doing this business, men are much more sensitive today. It's really the support that they have at home is all there, And I think we need to bring up our children also with the same thing, saying that, both of you are equal. I think it's important it starts from that. And yes, as support from my organization, I would like to make them as safe as possible, which I've already am doing. And of course, that's the only thing I've not set up the marriage bureau. But you need to do the counseling things constantly. We're always doing it. We make re-entry easy for them. And the maternity leave is also extended. I think I also need to extend it to paternity leave,
Oh,
Maybe that's all. These are things that open up for you because I think it has to be more of a support system than anything else that's going to make it work.
Yes, it has to be collaborative between the employer and the employee. And then, of course, as you pointed out, ensuring that policies are also gender agnostic to some extent. Hemant, the targets that you've set for yourself, and more importantly, what is the roadmap that you're working on at this point in time in terms of priorities?
So I think one or two questions which I missed answering was, we've recently launched a program called Punk, which is for women who are working but had stopped working for whatever be the reason, and if they want to come back. Right, so that's a program that we have just launched. Again, the same resistance I can see, so we'll have to push it through, but I'm sure that will be of great value. The second point you talked about was on our suppliers, right? Now, frankly, there is no challenge with suppliers because most of them don't employ women, right? So it's not about attrition. So I think what I take back from this conference is that how do we give marks to the suppliers who are adding diversity, and so that we treat them as special suppliers, right? Third was in terms of ask. I think, I don't know if you're aware or not, as per the Factories Act, till about 2000, when the Madras High Court came up with a ruling, you could not employ women in factories from 7 p.m. to 6 a.m.
Yeah.
Right? Then it made from 10 p.m. to 5 a.m. Now you can't have a factory. You need 3 shifts working. Even today, it is 66% of people in night shift have to be women. Now, how do you balance that? But many state governments have come up with, they've given you that, Of course, the court also talked a lot about in terms of safety and harassment. And of course, that's not it's a given. But these kind of small changes that can happen can make a big difference to all the new locations. So many states have changed, some need to continue to do that. From Aspiration's perspective, as far as ITC is concerned, in many functions, we already have almost 40-50, hotel is more than 60%, in marketing jobs, it's almost 50% because, we sell food, so we need, people who understand food better. The challenge is in manufacturing, because the supply is a challenge. So how do we tell people that you should be, there was a discussion on STEM, but even after STEM, mostly it's IT. How do you make manufacturing attractive? You have to get the family involved, you have to, so today we are already working with schools to come and see our factories. So maybe it will inspire some girl to tomorrow to want to kind of work in that place. So that's the journey. I think, as ITC, you've taken a target of 30%, so I think we are monitoring that.
You've already set a target of 50% for yourself, Rajiv Chhaba, at MG, but, just in terms of the learnings and the roadmap ahead, what are you going to prioritize?
Yeah, so there are
and how do you make manufacturing aspirational?
Yeah, so in Gayatris of this world probably are going to make it aspirational, but I'm happy to say that initially those low-hanging fruits already we've achieved, so no longer there are low-hanging fruits. We need to go deeper into the issues. But initially, as an example, we did the same thing. We went to villages, panchayats, to convince them to come and have a look at our factory. We sent buses to parents to come and see it's a safe place. Initially, when we took some girls from the tribal background, they were given the toilet training even because they didn't know how to use a Western toilet, and then we have vending machines giving free sanitary napkins and stuff like that. So we started with that. Now we are trying to make our staff women leaders as kind of hand holders and coaching to these associates of the blue-collar worker. So they act as role models now. But we got the first painter in the country. We got the first, one of the first welders. Initially, the guys were not accepting females in the welding shop. They said they cannot weld. Guess what? We did blind testing. Same, a guy, a new guy and a new girl, and we said, okay, do the welding and blind testing, and girls' welding was better than guy. So so all that stuff we have done. But now the thing is, we need to go to the higher level, and we have the issues also of supply side. So we have got driver back program, the 5th year going on, that even if a lady has got 10 years break, 15 years break, and if they want to come back to the corporate world, we help them with a 1-year training program. Now we have gone to the extent that housewives, you have never worked in life, and then you have been housewife for 25 years or 30 years or 20 years. You want to come back, we'll help you. So we are trying all kinds of things so that we can increase the percentage to 50%. We get the problem at the senior level, so and also we have become a good ground for poaching, unfortunately. so we have to deal with all kind of challenges, but still 50% is the target.
Yeah.
Very tough, but we are 37 actually now, so we are getting there, right?
Well, blind testing should become mandatory across a whole bunch of functions, because I think that will really give you the true test. But, thank you so much, Sumita, Nina, Hemant, and Rajiv, for sharing your very real, authentic stories and insights on what it takes to actually be able to run factory lines, bring women onto the assembly line, and the long distance that we still need to cover, because it's not going to be an easy path. And, one thing that continues to strike me, and I picked that up from each one of you, is there is no data in this country that tells us what the situation is. There is no repository that can actually put together these insights, this shared information that we've exchanged here this evening, that tells you what's working and what's not. And that's been part of the effort here at Future Female Forward as well. So thank you very much for adding to our playbook. Ladies and gentlemen, a big round of applause.
Thank you.